Good morning, everyone. Actually, it's almost afternoon. Hi, depending on where you are in the country. If you do hear some muffling background noise, it's just my furnace kicking on. I did turn it down, so it shouldn't be running too much. So I was just gonna go over some stuff today that I've been getting intuitively lately, and I've noticing it a lot around me, and it might resonate with some of the things that you've been getting or that you've also noticed that you been hearing from other people as well. So I have been noticing for the past while, like there's a lot of people that are exhausted. And I will even say I understand that for myself, right? So just turn up brightness here. There you go. I've been noticing that also for myself. I'm fortunate enough that I don't work in a public setting, that I get to be at home. So, for those of you who do work in a public setting, who do work in hospitals, you'll notice that this is very taxing on you. It's going to be exhausting when you get home and you're burnt out, and you're going to wake up in the morning with a little bit of reserves or a little bit of a reserve energy. And you're going to think to yourself, finally, I actually have some energy. I feel good. And then you're going to notice when you go out in your day, probably by lunchtime or the afternoon, you're winding down to be exhausted again, right? It also contributes when you are drinking coffee as well. So that's another big thing that's been coming in. And I'll get into the reasoning of the energies and why we're so exhausted. But I also have been noticing that people who are drinking a lot of coffee that get up in the morning, feel a little bit of energy, and then they decide that coffee is just going to give them that extra boost, right? And they go and drink their coffee, and they're going to notice when that time comes for the caffeine to crash that they're actually feeling worse left off than they were before they had that coffee. Okay. So right now we're constantly going through this energy coming in, we're rising, and then our bodies are like, what's going on? Our nervous system doesn't know what's going on. Like as much as we keep going through this, our brain understands that it's another cycle of what we're going through, another shift, but our nervous system, we keep being brought into another place that our nervous system isn't used to, our brains aren't used to. So the nervous system is constantly, um, it's constantly being, our bodies are being brought into another unknown, another unknown, another unknown each time we rise. And so each time our nervous system, and it brings up a different set of thoughts, or maybe the thoughts before that you thought you had managed, are going to start coming back, or they're going to get louder. And it's just because we constantly keep going to another place where it's bringing in more light and bringing in more light and more light, and our bodies aren't used to that. We've never gone through this before. Our souls have never even gone through anything like this before, like on a place like this within Earth, right? Where we're dealing with we're dealing with the density and the light energy, right? So there's this constant shifting. Our bodies are unsure, and then the energy comes into our field to be integrated after we rise up, right? And it comes in to integrate, and that's the part that exhausts us. That's the part where our body, because that was very stimulating already before. And some of us, when the energies come in like that, when they're really high, sometimes we are a vibrational match to it. And that's when we have those amazing days where we're tapped in, we're tuned in, the synchronicities are amazing. We're getting floods of downloads and information. And it's wonderful, but we can only stay there for so long, right? Especially with these shifts going on. And I'm going to say for myself, I had this thought yesterday, for where I'm at and for where some other people are at, like even people who really are not aware or conscious or fully awake, because I can't label that people are not awake because I'm not in their shoes and I don't know. And they might be on the inside, just might not appear to be on the outside. But for those that like to complain about their day or are always projecting negative vocabulary all the time, I will say that I got this insight that came in that said, even on your worst day, it's still better than their best days. And I was like, that is really interesting. Not all the time. So it just shows like where my energy is at and where a lot of our energies are at, or we're at a really, really good time. We're we constantly go like this, right? We're not like this. We go down. But every time our we come to the ebb part of our life, it's not as low as it was before, right? So we're noticing that our tough days or our harder days are not as, they feel more intense because there's this pressure cooker energy coming in that's kind of like telling us, like pushing it out of us, right? But it's not as intense as it was before. Or it's more intense, sorry. It's more intense than it was before. So it feels more personal. It feels all those things, but also if we're able to just kind of step back and realize it's just a programming coming through and take a step back and observe it and watch it play out because it's not you. It's a program coming in. But when we're unaware and we're unconscious of it, it feels personal. It feels like it's overpowering us. But just that thought that you can literally just start observing it and start watching the thoughts play out and the emotions. And then you realize that you're just the observer. You are not the person actually living out those emotions. It's just a program running in you. So you kind of detach yourself from it. When you detach yourself from it, you can actually look at it from a more interesting, curious perspective, right? Um, so yeah, so all of that energy, all of that's kind of coming on. And so I hope you guys kind of understand that part. Then think of it this way. When we are exhausted, when that energy is coming in, and when we go through the integration part where the energy is coming in, it is exhausting because we just went through being pushed up energetically, right? Our bodies are, I can't even say it's up, it's almost like expanded, right? Because I feel like we always think we're going to rise, but we kind of do rise in lightness, but our energy expands, like our consciousness expands, right? So all this light energy is coming in and it's like expanding our energy fields, right? And then when we are vibrationally matched to it, I like that idea. When we're vibrationally matched to it, we are expanded with it. And we are on the high with the synchronicities and such, as I said before. And then the integration comes in. So we expand and then that high energy seeps in so that it can recalibrate us through our DNA. It can recalibrate our energy, it recalibrates our body. So first it affects our energy. Then it comes in and works on the body. That's how I'm being shown it. And you know what? Everyone is going to have a different way of seeing this because none of us two have the same perspectives, right? So our body's being worked on and it's exhausting. So it's like anytime you go to the gym or you're doing physical labor or you're doing anything that involves actively with the body, it's exhausting. You feel exhausted after all and you need rest. And because this is energetic, but it's still coming in and it's changing the cellular structure of our DNA. It's changing our bodies, not just metaphysically, energetically, but physically. It is changing things going on in our bodies. And it is such a massive shift and a massive change that our bodies require rest. We have to rest because if we don't, we're going to be bagged all the time. We're just going to be so tired all the time, right? So that's one of the biggest things that I was seeing in October coming into November as I saw my own energy and I just and for those that are on the same vibrational wavelength that are watching this, I just kept seeing my energy going in. Whereas during the summer and things like that, my energy was expansive. It was like that my energy could give to people, that I was out and about and I could be in other people's energies. And I will say I have noticed since November, beginning of November, um, that I'm very selective being out in public around people's energies. Very, very selective. Um, and only doing so when I have the inspired action to do so. When I actually have been so bagged that I crash on the couch before it's even noon, and I wake up and I feel amazing. I feel like a brand new person. And I'm like, we're going to the grocery store and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it excites me and I have all this energy, right? And then I go and I do all those things. And then I come home and my energy is just back down. And it's like rest, right? So um, the flow, it's just being in the flow with everything and listening to our bodies, right? So let me go back to the coffee part. So when we drink coffee, think of it, it shoots up your nervous system, number one. It gets your adrenaline going. It dehydrates you and it depletes your body. And when all those things are happening in your body, it's like activating the survival signal almost. Not maybe to that extent, but a part of it, right? It activates that hustle energy in you. It activates that no pain, no gain, kind of like that whole like motivational discipline mindset. It just gets you right up in that, right? So your body is like shooting high on your nervous system, and it's anxiety. It is anxiety. I'm going to just take a side note. It took me quite a while to identify the difference between anxiety and excitement because anxiety can mask itself as excitement if you're not aware of it, right? And me being somebody who has dealt with nicotine, I found that it was one of the most beneficial tools that I had to help me identify this was because if I was going to go into a situation with people that made me literally want to grab a cigarette or grab a vape, I knew that was anxiety. And if I thought about staying home, I was like, I didn't need that anymore because I was already tuning into that energy of being there and it was anxiety, right? And of course, some of us like to learn the hard way where it's almost like we subconsciously want to test ourselves to be like, well, maybe I can go and I don't, or I don't have to I can still do this, right? It's not going to really affect me that bad, right? And after time, you leave or you're there and you wonder why you're in those situations and you wonder why you're there because you feel awful. You feel so much resistance and anxiety within yourself. There's no easy flow. No one's having great conversations. And I found myself spending a lot of time wishing that other people were on my page. But we can't wish for other people to be on our page. So what's the point of me even being there, right? So the coffee part, and this could go with nicotine as well, because I mean, it does shoot up the nervous system as well. Um, so just think of your body with all of this energy, and it's just like listening. And the biggest thing is listening to your body. That is so, so big right now, is listening to your body, what your body wants, not what your mind is telling you, what your body is telling you, right? And so your body wants to come down. It wants to relax. And I'll say it in this way. Like, for example, say I'm being told physically that my body just wants to rest on the couch. And maybe I did that the day before, right? And I wake up the next day and my body is just like, I'm tired. I'm so tired. Can we just rest today? And my brain, I'm going to tell you, is automatically going to say, we just rested yesterday. We don't need to be lazy. We don't need to like lay around. Like, what are we doing with our lives here, right? But what does my body want? So I notice that's running. But at the same time, I'm like, what does my body feel like it wants? And I'll take the dog for a walk, even if I don't feel like it. And usually that's when I get the greatest insights, right? It's almost like going against what your brain says. Your brain almost goes opposite of your intuition 9 times out of 10, right? Unless you're connected. If you're intuitively connected and you're feeling excitement and your brain's like, bing, 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 let's do this, that's different. But when the brain is shouting things at you, usually it's going against your intuition, right? So I come back in from a walk and my legs feel like lead the whole time I'm out for the walk. I feel refreshed, but I feel heavy. I feel tired. And I might eat something and my body's like, we just need to lay on the couch for a bit. And once I lay on the couch and my eyelids get heavy, my body wants to rest, right? But then this other part of me is like, maybe we should make a coffee. That coffee might just give me that boost to actually get some stuff done today because we've kind of been laying around all day. So, all day yesterday, like there's some stuff that really does need to get done. We probably should get doing that, right? That right away feels like motivation. It feels like, and to me, motivation is convincing yourself to do something when you don't want to do it, when your body feels like it doesn't want to do it, right? Um, But I will say, like going for a walk when my mind's like, you probably don't want to go for a walk. Like really don't want to most mornings when I'm exhausted. But there's this voice within me that always says, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. It's just a walk. And it's for her, right? So still learning to decipher some of those thoughts that are coming in, right? But even going out for a walk, I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to. I really don't want to. But it's not my brain getting in there and being like, you didn't work out for the last 3 days. You didn't do any of this stuff. So we need to get you out there. We need to move and we need to do that. And I can instantly see how it changes how I feel when I start listening to that, or when even as I'm telling you this. I feel resistance in my chest, like my heart wants to contract. And that brain telling that's motivation, that's discipline. And that actually goes against our intuition. That actually goes against our our energy. And I know it works for some people, and of course it's going to work. It's going to work for those people that aren't fully in listening to their bodies, right? And I'm going to say that because I used to be one of those people. No pain, no gain. I used to be one of those people that pushed even when my body said no. Like I pushed super hard, right? So anyway, so with the coffee, I keep just directing off. With the coffee, I find your body wants to go down. It wants to, it's just like, let's just relax. Let's just calm down. Let's just take a breather here, right? And your brain's like, let's have some coffee. Like, let's. And it literally makes you feel like you're excited to have coffee. That's not excitement. That's anxiety. And it's like, we should have coffee. We should do this, right? And it literally makes you feel super excited for it. And the moment you take a sip of your coffee, I really hope that this isn't dark on the screen. Like, I might have to shift this a little bit in a different way. I'm not sure. Okay. Your body wants to come down, it's tired, and then you shoot up your nervous system. And you're going to deplete, and you're on high, you are depleting your body of vitamins, you're becoming dehydrated. And all there's a few things I mentioned before. Um, but anyway, you're literally going against, you're adding more resistance onto your body because your body wants to rest, and now you're doing this to it, right? And then you're going to go on that high and you're going to maybe feel some of the effects of it for a while, and then you're going to crash. You're going to crash and you're going to come down so hard. And then you're going to be even more exhausted than you were before. Then you're going to keep drinking another cup of coffee and another cup of coffee just to get yourself through that day until you get home later and you're a complete zombie. A complete zombie. And then we can't figure out why day after day after day we just cannot gain our energy back because you're not giving your body a rest to get your energy back. And you're constantly stressing it and stressing it and stressing it. And then all of a sudden, look, one day you wake up and you got a cold and you got the flu because it completely, all of this lowers the immune system, right? So that's been so big right now that I've been noticing with people around me, and I've been noticing with their energies, but I also have been noticing for myself. Like, yes, I wake up in the morning. Sometimes my brain's like, let's have a coffee. You want to know what else I want to have if I have a coffee? I want nicotine. I have this slight thought of nicotine. And at that moment, I'm like, this is just the anxiety talking because it's uncomfortable about how I feel. But now it's like, what are my thoughts that I'm having that's making me uncomfortable, right? So then there's those thoughts of laziness that comes up, procrastination, right? It's looking at all of that. And then I'm like, why are these thoughts coming up? Like what are we believing as a society, right? And then I'm getting that whole do, that we are do culture. We got to keep doing, got to keep like moving, action, 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 right? And we're not a society that can just allow us to be, just be, right? So while you're watching this, I'm going to get you to feel two different sides of things. Okay. I mean, I'm going to go into one scenario and see how you feel when I say it. And then I'm going to say another side of scenario and then see how you feel it in that, right? So this one part, I'm going to use myself as an example, and this one part of me is saying, you need to get your ass off the couch, right? Um, there's like some stuff you could take to the dump. There's some other things that you could do around the house. We could be doing this. Like we got to keep doing this. Like come on. Um, we're not lazy. We're not going to procrastinate. Like come on. Like let's do this. You got this to do. You got that to do. Like come on. Like there's just so much due. And then there's like, what are you doing in this world? How are you contributing in this world? What are we what are we actually doing? Like what are you doing? Just sitting here on the couch? Like what is that doing for you? Like how's that doing anything for any of those people out there in the world? Like even with putting out my material, right? If I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to put anything out, right? But it chimes in like that, right? So there's all this like, do, come on, like, and it's just like constant, 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 right? Okay. And then there's this other part of me that says, it's okay. It's okay to rest. So what? So what? I'm not losing out on anything. I'm Nobody's calling me to do anything. I don't have any external obligations to go to right now. The next few seconds that come into my life, they're not even here yet until they're here. But right now and right here is the only thing, right? And it was just kind of one of those moments where it's like, you don't have to be so hard on yourself, right? You can relax. And relaxing and being, just being, and like taking some deep breaths and just constantly reminding yourself that it's okay not to constantly always 100% be on, because we think that if we are constantly on, that we are failing, that we are not succeeding. And there's that whole word in the whole world, the word success. And we look at success like if we are being seen in the world, if we are contributing to the world, if we are making money, if we are making an impact. And honestly, while those things could be true for some people, success is just being okay with where you are right now, just being here right now. The fact that you are where you at with what you know right now, and that you can just relax and just be okay, because that energy flows. That's the feminine. That's the feminine energy. The energy before the do. That is the masculine. That's the masculine energy, which we hold both, right? I'm not saying go for one or the other. I mean, if we were always constantly relaxing and we were always constantly sitting on the couch, we wouldn't get anywhere, right? We wouldn't we are the things we desire and the things we want to do, right? And it's finding that balance, but I find so much on those days where there is so much masculine mental chatter going on, all that do stuff. It's usually your body's indication of telling you to do the opposite, because your brain doesn't want you to do the opposite. It wants to do what it's comfortable with. It wants to keep that programming in check, right? So it's listening to our bodies. It's listening to what's being asked of us, and being okay to rest, being okay to sit back. And I've even been noticing for myself, um, rest doesn't mean just rest. It means give your energy a break, right? So I'll sit on the couch and my first somatic thought is, let's put on a movie. Now, if I'm listening, my brain's like, heck yeah, we're not just gonna sit on the couch and do nothing. Like, we're not doing that. Like, how fun is that, right? And then this other part of me feels how it would feel to watch a movie, and it feels very stimulating. I feel like I can right away tell this is gonna go active, right? Um, so then I'm like, okay, let's not watch a movie. And then my brain's like, well, what are you gonna do then? We can't just sit here and do nothing, right? And so I'll grab a book. And depending on where I'm at, sometimes the book works. And sometimes I actually can read a sentence, and I love to read. I can read the same sentence like 4 or 5 times, and I'm not observing. So I'm like, I'm not doing the book right now. And if I can't do TV and I can't do a book, I'm sure as hell not going to be going on social media. Because the moment that I actually give in to the thoughts of going on social media, my energy is completely out of whack, because it's too much. It's too stimulating. It's just too much. Like, your body it needs the rest so it can focus all of its energy on ourselves. And the moment that we focus on things externally outside of ourselves, like social media, all those things, we're giving that part of the energy that is meant to be used for us, to help us, to recoup us. We are little bits giving it away here and there, and we can't use all of it to help ourselves. And you'll feel anxious. You'll feel all this other energy coming in, right? Like, just stimulating, right? Just let me check. I had written some things. I'd written some stuff down in point notes. I just wanted to make sure. Oh yes. We're coming up. I don't do astrology. It comes into my awareness for certain things because obviously I do understand enough of it to understand how it affects me. But I don't read it in a sense of how it affects other people, right? I'm one of those people that because I've had to learn everything myself, because I I've been my own teacher for so long that I kind of have this perspective of like I will help other people and I'll kind of throw out information there when I feel drawn to or I feel inspired to share with people. Um, but a lot of times when it comes to our own transformations and why things are going on with it in ourselves, if people ask or I feel inspired, I will share. But other than that, maybe they're not meant to know at that time, but I do know it's because I've done so much of this of my own that I know that other people can too, right? So I like to empower other people to open those doors themselves. Because I mean, we can give people all the information that they need. But for those times that we have gotten those ourselves or that we have opened those doors ourselves, it's given us so much of our own power back, right? So I like to help other people be empowered to find their own, right? So I'll explain to people the gist of a birth chart, but at the same time, I will explain how I would go about Googling all those things. And it's like, and if you want to, here you go, right? And nine times out of 10, if that person doesn't go do the research themselves, they're not serious about it anyway. So it basically would have been wasting my time had I done it for them, right? So I just kind of just leave it be. Unless somebody asks me to do it and they want me to pay them to do it. But I'm not advanced in it. I just know the basics, right? So we have the full moon in Taurus, which I'm so excited for because that is my zodiac, right? So Taurus, it's in my sign, right? And it's the feminine energy. So I've had some stuff over the last few weeks that have been coming up about my beliefs and stuff about my own body, about me presenting myself to the world, just even a day to day, right? And I used to be really slim. I used to be really, really thin. And I will say, like, for a lot of the time since then, I've been trying to get back to that. I've been trying because I loved how light I felt. I felt so light, right? And I I did the gym. I tried to do it just more intuitively and stuff like that. And I just found it was so interesting because I was also finding that, and I swear this does incorporate with the full moon energy, right? Um, I found that I was going to the gym and I was doing the things that I was always doing before. So I was lifting weights and I was doing some resistance training, um, running outside because I was felt that also helped cleared me, but I also felt from October coming into November, just a lot of it, I felt more exhausted than energized afterwards, right? And I continued to do it until I was noticing that I was actually more stressed. I was finding myself to want to eat more, and I found that I was doing the opposite, that my body wasn't actually getting leaner, I was filling out more. Of course, with building muscle mass, I understand all of that, right? But I felt heavier and I felt sluggish and I felt tired all the time, okay? So then I sat there and I was just like, okay, what am I doing that's not working and what can I do that's different, right? And so what I got intuitively with that was you're you're dominating on your masculine side. And that's like the lifting weights. It's the heaviness. It's the mindset towards it. It's like gotta lose this weight. We gotta do this, right? We're trying to get back to that, right? And I was being shown how I'm being guided to go more into my feminine energy, okay? And I was like, okay, so what does that look like? And it was like breath work, which I had already started doing. Breath work, yoga, Pilates, body movement, no weights, no weights. Running outside if you are on an absolute high and you have so much energy that you need to channel it in. but I have not felt that at all. And I feel like this winter, that's going to be few and far in between, right? Like I don't see myself doing much of that. More so cross country skiing, love it. I see myself on the fields and stuff around here doing a lot more of that. But that's more of resistance training. Just it's not so hard on your body and it just gets your heart rate up and it's the energy, like your oxygen and the energy of being in nature and stuff, right? So it's just it's just something I really enjoy doing. So anyway, so there's all these things been going on, and I had really had noticed when I looked in the mirror that I know that I had what do you call it? When you look in the mirror and you don't actually see things for what they are. I'm having a brain fart. It'll come to me. Body dysmorphia. So I had noticed that there had been times where I would like look in the mirror, I'd walk by and I'd glance and I'd be like, oh, not bad. I only have one mirror in the house. I only have one in the bathroom. That's it. Because I told myself I had to not have so many mirrors in the house because of the constant it would ruin my day. It would literally ruin my day. Looking in the mirror, being frustrated. Even if I put something on and I felt good and I looked in the mirror and I saw what I didn't like, it just shifted my energy right away, right? So I was like, less mirrors. And I found that I was content more of the time, where I was more focused on how I felt in my clothes rather than what I was seeing. And then I got to a point where then I would glance in the mirror and then I'd be like, oh, not bad, right? And then I would turn and then I would notice almost like when you push the mirror and you go wider, I would see it was so interesting. I could see it through my eyes. And as soon as I took that first glance, it was like I saw myself for what I really was. And then the moment I turned and I really looked at it, it was like the body dysmorphia lens completely kicked on and I saw myself go wider. And I was like, what? What is this? What just happened? Right. And so I realized that that's a legit, like I knew it was a thing and I understood the concept of it, but I didn't understand exactly what it was, like exactly what was going on, like physically until I saw it with my own eyes, right? And then I would like look away and I would look back and I was like I would go back to what my brain was computing the first time I looked in the mirror and I was like and then the second time and then I stared at myself with the body dysmorphia and I looked at it and I started analyzing it and I started to be curious about it. And the more I was curious about it and I kind of like turned in the mirror and I just turned and I was like it was like the illusion of the body dysmorphia started to crumble. And all of a sudden, where I saw myself like this, my brain kept flipping back and forth between real, not real, real, not real, not real, not real, to the point where all of a sudden the not real wasn't there anymore. And I looked and I was like, I have the body of a woman. I have the body of a woman. And that's what I kept hearing was like, you don't want to be super thin. You don't want to be. And even though I was trying to get back to that, I was also trying to understand why I wanted to get back to that too. Right? Because I was like, I understand it's a culture. And then I started, it's a culture of wanting to be young and wanting to be thin, right? And, but for me, it wasn't about like the lines on my face. It wasn't about all those things. Like I embraced that. Like I barely wear any makeup anymore, and that actually made my face a lot better. But it was just the weight part of it, which I know I had a lot of stuff growing up from like generational stuff, right, too. But it was really interesting, and I wanted to understand why I wanted to be so thin. And a few weeks ago, like a couple weeks ago, I kept coming across celebrities and the stuff they're taking and how thin they are. And I look at that and I'm like, that is not healthy at all. Like, that's not healthy at all. No judgment, just observational. And all I heard was, like, you want to be like that? Right? And then it's funny because I came, like, more recently, I came across some pictures of myself from when I was a lot thinner, right? And there was some of them where I was really, really thin. And I really had noticed how much my face sunk in before I looked at it and I couldn't see that. I couldn't see it because the body dysmorphia was idolizing that and it was glossing over all of it, right? Through a different lens. And then I did notice now when I look in the mirror and that body dysmorphia isn't there like it was before, when I go back to those pictures, it no longer looks glamorous to me. It literally, I look at it and I'm like, wow, I really can see the lines in my face. Like I look older. I look a lot older, right? And do you ever notice people who have just a little bit more on them? Their faces glow and they actually their skin looks great and then they lose like they get really really skinny and it just changes everything. It's like they don't even look the same and you almost admired them kind of for how they were before because of the way they glowed, with the way their skin glowed and stuff like that, right? So it's really interesting, the body dysmorphia, how that is such an illusion and it's the way we see it, and it's not until we're ready to break that illusion and start asking the right questions. And it's not that I wanted to break all these illusions so that I could learn how to be thinner. I was just tired of having this mental chatter. I was tired of having this dialogue between this part of me and this other part of me, that this one part of me just wanted to be okay. It wanted to feel okay. It wants to walk in the world and feel comfortable in my own skin. And this other part of me that had this conditional chatter. And I realized now that a lot of it was collective. But the fact that I was still being affected by it showed an attachment or a belief that I had, that because it's being so highlighted in the world right now, because it's like all over social media about how these celebrities are so thin, there's this pressure to be so thin. I was feeling that pressure. But because I had my own stuff, it was highlighting that for me, right? So, but I truly wanted to feel good in my own skin so that I could enjoy my life, right? So, Taurus energy is feminine, right? And it's about beauty. It's about comfort. It's about loving the pleasures in life. And as a Taurus, what is beauty? What is beauty? And for me, and for all of us, beauty sometimes what we focus on what is beauty is an illusion. And obviously, for myself, beauty on the outside was an illusion. Um, I've had somebody that has been in my life and kind of off and on, and great teaching tool. Like great, I like a person. There's I have a few select people in my life, and sure, like there's things that I learn from them about myself. But for some people who trigger you or people who really see you on a grander scale, right? And I had been noticing that I was attracting um, a specific aspect from this person about being objectified, right? Objectified for my body, objectified um, for the externalness, right? I'm not saying that this person might not have any heart, or this person, there's a lot of complexities. I'm not going to get into it, right? But everything is in our external world for a reality, right? Whether it's someone that we can help or somebody that can help us by showing us aspects of ourselves, right? And I had wondered, excuse me, I had wondered a while ago about why I was attracting this in my life, like why this was happening, right? And so I understood to set a boundary. I realized I didn't want this in my life anymore. Like I didn't really, it's not that I um gave into any sort of that stuff. I was just tired of being seen that way, right? So I had really asked myself, what am I attracting in this? Like what am I doing? Right? What is this mirroring back to me? And I went for a walk this morning and it started flooding in about the thoughts that I have about myself. And a lot of it had to do with me putting myself more out there on social media because I also was working through this whole body image stuff, right? And I didn't want that to stop me from putting myself out to the world, right? So I had these thoughts that were shown to me this morning as I was going on my walk, and they were telling me that you are so concerned about your external world when you were presenting yourself to the world that you couldn't see your light within you. Your light wasn't bright enough to shine out to people because you were so focused on the external and you were judging yourself for your looks. And you were so focused more so on your looks than you were about the person that was on the inside. And I'm like, and I realized at that moment it was like, that's why you were attracting that. It was showing you that you do that to yourself. Okay. 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 So beautiful. Like just absolutely beautiful. And even just having that realization as I was walking this morning, I felt so good in my skin. And it was like, I know like it's a new sweater, so the inside of it's like super soft, but it was just like everything felt soft. And I felt this flow of this like feminine energy this morning. And it was just I hadn't felt that in forever. And it felt so good. And I was just like I had this like soft, feminine, but empowering, not full empowering, but it was like such a security feeling that it was like comfortable in my skin. I'm have a body of a woman. And that can mean anything to anyone. It's feeling good in our own skin and feeling like we are like for me a woman, right? For whoever wherever you are, whatever gender, anything, no biases here. But what does that mean for you, right? So I kind of hope that gives some context. So with this feminine energy in this full moon, it's going to bring up a lot of asking, and especially if you have a lot of placements, if you have strong Taurus energy in your chart. And I think there's also some Uranus. There's some changes in there too. I was reading on that. Uranus energy, which is change, like deep change, right? So I feel like there's going to be within this full moon some changes happening. And I'm obviously the full moon is what? What's today? Say the 14th? Yes, tomorrow's the full moon. So I'm already noticing changes on my perspectives of beauty and what beauty is. And even though I knew that beauty is on the inside, I knew beauty was on the inside, but this illusion wouldn't allow me to feel what beauty is, right? So I feel like that's kind of where that's going with that. Um, so yes, so I've got that and that's also where the yoga was coming in. It was I was just like my mind did not want me to do yoga. It did not want me to get in there. But the more that I did it, I actually found myself more sore after doing a morning of I did think I did like a half an hour session and I found myself more sore the next day than I did when I was doing weights. And my body was just shaking, right? And I realized through that shaking with my body was I was releasing resistance in my body, right? And that I feel like that's what they call it resistance training because you're holding poses for long periods of time. You're causing resistance in your body, which actually helps release resistance. And the connection that I felt doing the yoga, being in some of those poses, and not anything strenuating, just sitting there and being in certain poses and feeling that stretch. And it was just like I just felt this just deepen more and more and more. And it was just, it just felt amazing. It felt so much more connected. I could just breathe. And I feel like that's what this winter is asking us to do as well. It's just enjoy the silence, breathe, just be okay with where we're at. There's going to be things happening in the world, and we are all little puppets on a string with the collective energy. And if I know, like, there's this whole um, part about a lot of spiritual people or people on the path that are wanting to um, basically jump out of the matrix. It's kind of like it's like part of the path. It's like and it's interesting because I had that thought once too, where it's like just pull me out. Like can I live? I want to, and that's that whole saying. It's like you can be of this world and live in it instead of being in the world and living in it, right? And the second part is kind of like just blindly living in this world, just It's like when we go through this journey and we're in those times where we don't have higher perspectives and we feel like we're just thrown back in and nothing makes sense and we're just like going through everything again, right? And then all of a sudden we get pulled back out and we get this higher perspective. And so it's like being in the world and being in it, being instead of being of the world, but we're still in the world, but we're of it. We don't have the attachments of the world, right? And so I think this journey isn't that we're escaping the matrix. We are the puppets on the strings are our attachments, our belief systems that we have that are attached to everything that's in the collective because we've given to that collective energy. Our thoughts, our experiences have given information to that as well, right? And we're all connected. So we're all connected to like this one cloud, right? And depending on what's the highlight in the world or what's going on in the world and astrology and like astrological and all this stuff that's kind of happening, it pulls on some of our strings, right? And it's like there's attachment issues going on in the world. Like I don't know what sign or what planet, I don't know. But like say there's like attachments to money. Like we got that's very highlighted right now. So all of a sudden if you still have that within you, it's like that's being pulled, your strings are being pulled there. It's like, oh, your attachment strings, let's start yanking on those. Like, let's look at this. Like, what are the beliefs coming up? Let's take a look at your thoughts, right? And a lot of people, you're going to be around people and they're like having issues with money or they're that's highlighted for them and you're seeing it with all these other people. Yes, because we're all getting the similar strings pulled. But then once we identify those belief systems and we can remove those attachments, then we are no longer affected by those pull of the strings, right? And so we're less like, and we're honestly going to get to a point where we look at other people who are really affected by all those things and we'll have the wisdom, but for those who don't want it or those who want to live that the way they want to live, we have to honor that. We have to be okay with them not wanting help, right? And sometimes we can be drawn to say something, but like I've come across with some of Bashar's channelings, it's not our business what people do with it, right? And sometimes that kind of pokes at the fix it mentality of a lot of the healers, right? Um, but it definitely is something that can be overcome, right? Because I used to be one of those, right? I'm going to tell you how liberating it is when you come out on the other side and you just don't care to fix people anymore, where you literally are just okay with people just being themselves. But it takes some time to get there, right? And it obviously um, you kind of have to have this swap of putting yourself first over other people, right? Because if we're not good with ourselves, how can we help other people, right? Um, so I kind of have that. If there's anything that I have said or I didn't elaborate on, please just let me know. Um, I have been noticing lately, because I did a blog the other day, and I have been noticing when I've been wanting to send out videos or to record something, I was very overstimulated in the beginning, and I was just like getting things at all directions. And finally, I had to sit down because they're so excited, the non-physical guides, whatever you call it, my soul, so excited to give information that I'm finally doing this. And they're just giving me so much at once. But also my perspective when I was doing the video, my perspective was focusing on everyone that was going to be watching this. So it's almost like I could see everyone and whatever was needing to come through me to them, it was just so much at once. And it would be so overwhelming. And I found that I was like losing track all the time, but I also felt like my energy was very like this all the time, even though it might not have shown on the outside, but it was like that on the inside. So I kind of had asked, slow it down. Slow it down a little bit at a time. Please help me have a flow. But I also ask that if there is something that I need to go off course for somebody to hear, please help me get back on course, right? And the energy just feels really, really calm and really peaceful and very, very flowy today, with all of this. So this is really nice how all of this kind of comes together. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. And I'm probably not going to edit. Probably not going to edit this video. Just take it as it is. Take me as I am, kind of thing. So that's kind of what I have for now. If there is anything else that I've kind of missed afterwards, I'll do a part two. Um, for sure. So I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your day and that you just listen to your bodies. Just be mindful. Just breathe. Just breathe. And I will say the breath work. Breath work is amazing. It is amazing for learning to focus. Focus on your breath. Focus on that. And plus, it releases the DMT. It releases the endorphins. It releases the dopamine. It releases all your natural stuff for your body so that you can feel energized and it can just help calm the brain, right? Um, and just be kind. Be so kind to yourself. And if your brain is really coming at you this winter or it's really chiming in on some stuff, detach, observe, and just be like, it's okay. It's okay. I don't have to do anything about this right now, right? And I will say I have noticed when we are rush, 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 we think that we're gonna miss out on those synchronicities. We think we rush, we it's like we're so action oriented because we think we have to do. We think we have to make things happen. We think we have to force external control in our world to make things happen. But if we just sit back and just be okay and enjoy our lives and just stop putting so much pressure on ourselves and just breathe and be okay with where we are right now. And when you finally can be okay with that, you're living in the moment and you'll get an insight or inspiration to maybe go bake some cookies or to go do laundry or to go do this. Like, I'm going to go do a dump run. I'm going to go do a dump run. And then after that, it was like, go wash the truck. I'm like, it does need a good washing. It does, right? And I'll be outside today, right? Which is what I'd wanted to do today, right? So it's just like and things that normally you would be like, ugh, I don't want to do that. But you're feeling in a different energy. You come at it with a different mindset. You feel different about it, right? So just give yourself a break. Be okay. Be okay. Even put on some music that makes you feel like you can sit in your feels and you can be okay. Like everything is always okay. And you've gotten this far. You've gotten this far, and look at all the things that you probably have worried about, or that you have been stressing about, or that you've tried to control, or whatever's happened, and you're still here. You're still well. You're watching this. You're alive for a reason, and everything's still working out. And you're going to learn. You're going to learn. And we don't need to put a timetable or a pressure on learning our stuff like right then now. Like we got to do it, do it, do it, because that's pressure and we got to get rid of that. That's the motivation. That is the discipline, energy, hustle energy that has been instilled in society. Breathe. It's not you, it's just the programming. So just don't worry about it. Just refocus somewhere else. Refocus somewhere else. Detach, detach, detach. Because the more you go in there and the more you dig, especially if it's very active and your mind is very active, don't dig. Don't dig when your brain's going crazy. Breathe, detach, 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 meaning refocus, refocus, refocus. Ask for clarity about it because when your mind is in that state, you can't get clarity. You can't. You can't ask for answers in the vibration of a problem. They're two different frequencies, right? Ask for what do I need to know in this moment? What is this trying to tell me? And ask for help with your non physical, with your guides, with just ask for help in those moments. Ask. They're waiting. They're waiting to help you out. They'll interfere sometimes with life death situations. And I know the more I listen intuitively, the more because I'm always listening for that intuitive information first. So it's almost like always a green light for them. But if I'm in that rocky stage where my brain is going crazy and I am in that mode and I don't ask, I'm more in my masculine ego energy where I'm like, I can figure this out. I gotta get this. Like we should be doing this. We should be doing And then finally I'll stop and I'm just like, no, we're not doing this right now. We're not doing this. Go for a walk. Be in nature, meditate, breathe, focus on your breathing, get out of there, but also ask. Be like, help me out, guys. Like, what do I need to do? What can I do right now to like just help me decompress, help me get back to here instead of here, right? Just ask for those things. Just redirect. And even though it tries to come in, and I'm going to say sometimes it'll be there, it will be there. If it continues to persist, write it down. Write it down. Get the thoughts out. Because once they're out of your head, the energy's out. Doesn't usually spin. Usually you bring up something more, right? Journal it out and write down every single thought that's coming across. And then you'll notice your mind will kind of go blank for a bit, and then you'll sit there and you'll be like, oh, that's it. And then all of a sudden, another one will come across, and you're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, what are these thoughts? I have never had these ones before, right? And it's just the unlayering of the programming, right? Get it out, write it down, and most times out of 10, it's gone. And then you can actually look at it and see how, and then we're not supposed to judge the thoughts, but you can see how ridiculous it was that we thought that, right? Or, um, but it's also not judging the thoughts, not thinking that it's bad when something's coming. And that's another narrative too, is it's like something's going on, I'm not doing things right, this is going on, like all of that is just, oh, that's just the brain trying to make you worry and trying to get you all into that poor me victim, like this is happening to me kind of thing, right? Yes, it is. It's happening for you, really. But just breathe, just relax. Nothing is a big deal. It's not a big deal. And if things feel like it's a big deal, it's because that is the conditioning that is taking it so personal. Breathe through things. Breathe through things. It's always going to be all right. But at the same time, we don't grow if we don't change. And change is uncomfortable. And we are always, well, I'm going to tell you, there is no normal anymore. There is no waking up and feeling normal anymore. Every day is waking up and feeling like it's different. No 2 days are the same anymore. And I wake up and it's different. The energy's different. And I don't know what that's going to bring. And the brain really wants to chime in because all the things that I have used to do, or the things that used to work before that used to soothe me or distract me, doesn't work anymore. Right? So it's like I'm getting up in the morning and I'm like what can I do to soothe myself? Well, maybe it's okay to be uncomfortable. Maybe it's okay to walk through that uncomfortability and get used to it. And then we can be okay for whatever change is happening within us, right? But I will say the one and only thing that seems to help is to lately has been the breath work, yoga, meditation, but all three things make me go in. And that's the only thing that gives me the peace and the stillness. The external things don't work anymore to get myself that there. It used to, you know, you craved a certain amount of food, or you'd be excited about certain like eating foods or comfort and stuff. It doesn't give me comfort anymore. It doesn't give me any of that. I'm still left with, when I'm not in sync with myself, I'm still left with feeling like I want to get back. I want to get back. I want to get back. And it doesn't matter what I do externally, it doesn't feel that anymore. So for me, it's been yoga, breath work, and meditation, being outside and doing things that doesn't involve my mind being active, because we are coming out of our mind and into our hearts. So the less we can activate our minds, the less we can do things that stimulate our minds, the better that we can stay here, right? And all of this is drawing us to come in more closer, to come in. I just thought of one other thing. Maybe this is for some of you. I've been really drawn. I've loved my spiritual teachers. I've loved the Bashar, like Daryl Anika, who channels Bashar, um, Lee Cryon, or Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon, um, Theo with Sheila Gillette. Like I've loved all those, have been my main spiritual teachers, my main ones. And love, 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 right? And they all kind of talk the same, have the same narrative. And as of more recently, I've just been getting this information very strongly to wipe the slate clean. So it's telling me to stop watching those videos because my intuition, and for those of you that are resonate with this and are getting the same synchronicity, is that our energy is being asked to be cleared out and stop watching, get it out. I mean, there have been times where I have had like an impulse, like an intuitive impulse to go because there is something there that I meant to hear. And it's like a short clip of a video. But as far as understanding where the world is going and what is going to happen, I am getting that there's going to be more communication coming in intuitively for a lot of us. Um, we're going to get more because it's going to get to a point where people aren't going to channel informations like that anymore. We're not going to need Bashar. We're not going to need Cryon. We're not going to need Theo. We're not going to need them to come through one person. We are automatically going to get our own coming through, right? So what I've been getting is this winter is kind of like, or especially these next couple months, is like go within, clear out everything externally in your consciousness, clear it out. We're not filtering it. And it's like the information that's got to come through has to be pure. It has to be ours. It can't be, it's like they don't, our soul doesn't want the information that comes through to be like, oh, so Bashar said this, or Cryon said this, or I heard that. It doesn't want any of that. It doesn't want us to have any of that. It wants us to have, it wants us to stop reaching out for that and using that as a permission slip for information, right? It wants us to stop using external resources for our information. It wants us to become clear, clear in our own so that we start getting our own, so that we don't need any of that. And it's interesting because there's been some couple times where I've had something happen in my external reality and I'm like, or something about the future or something, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder about this. And I go to Google it or I go to find Bashar on it, and all I heard was, you don't trust yourself enough to get that information yourself, hey? Yeah, probably not right now. But it's something I have to start. I have to start because it no longer resonates with me. It no longer feels good to go and search YouTube and to search for the answers. So it's like, just let it go. And it's like, it's asking me for the information to come through me. It's like, start trusting yourself more. You're going to get a lot more stuff because there is going to be some things that are going to happen within the next few years. And we are going to be communicating a lot more with higher dimensions and beings of higher dimensions, right? So, um, I'll elaborate more on that when I feel drawn to. And all I feel like is I'm in the preparing stages of something really, really great. And my brain wants to get in and be like, come on, we got to make a video about this. Like we got to do this, right? And I'm just like, but then this other part of me is like, you're preparing. You're preparing. Just ease off. It's like you're close. You're vibrationally close to that timeline. You're close to shifting to that. It's like, it's just relax, relax, enjoy, just be, just do, post some videos here and there. And because I had really wondered where my narrative was going with all of this. And I had thought about it, I was like, am I still posting about past lives, like all the other stuff? And as I talk about it, my heart just literally like contracts, like, and I'm like, okay, whew, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I do know, I do kind of see where it is going to start going. I'm just not going to share too much on that until I get more clear on it. Um, but it's exciting. It's super exciting. And for those of you who are intuitive enough, you already know where this is going. You already picked up on that in my energy field. Um, so I will be sharing some more videos, obviously, as things come. I will share more of the energies of what I'm getting just to see what other people can relate to and just the things that I'm really drawn to. So, but like I said, if you have any questions or if there's something else, I mean, first and foremost, ask yourself. Ask yourself. And then if you happen to come across one of my videos that's a synchronicity, there you go, right? Because we all know our own information, right? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm the only person that can give that to you because I'm just a conduit of information to help you be the best versions of you. But really, we all can help ourselves be the best versions of ourselves. We just don't trust that we can do that ourselves. So use permission slips. We use other people's conduits. We use pink slips outside of ourselves that grant us permission for the information to come through, right? Um, but really, we can access that all ourselves. But I will say that's not such a bad thing because it helps with co-creation, right? I mean, it makes it fun when you run into somebody in the store or you're right place at the right time, right? And you're hear all these synchronicities, and you run into this person, you're having this conversation. It's just the magic. It's so much magic in life, and it's so beautiful and it's so exciting, right? So, yeah. So that's what I got for you. And happy full moon tomorrow. And I hope you have an amazing, amazing weekend or day.